Meanwhile, this week, President Trump is preparing for an all-out show of power to celebrate the 4th of July. President Trump has requested an array of military vehicles, including tanks and fighter jets, to be showcased to the Salute to America event in Washington on Thursday evening. The president has taken it upon himself to arrange the festivities, including his own speech from the Lincoln Memorial with military flyovers. But many details have not yet been determined, now with just days to go.
So salute to America, and I'm going to be here, I'm going to say a few words, and we're going to have planes going overhead, the best fighter jets in the world, and other planes too, and we're going to have some tanks stationed outside. Got to be pretty careful with the tanks because the roads have a tendency not to like to carry heavy tanks, so we have to put them in certain areas, but we have the brand new Sherman tanks, so we have the brand new Abram tanks.
Engineers have canvassed the Lincoln Memorial to determine whether the weight of the military vehicles might ruin the historic site. That's according to Washington Post. The Post reports the price tag for this event could be in the millions of dollars just for the air power alone. Gene Robinson, so at the end of the day, when you get out there on the 4th of July, what's this thing going to look like?
Oh, Willie, don't get me started on this.
Go for it, man.
If you raise kids in the Washington area, you know about the 4th of July in Washington, and it is a glorious day. There's like a fairly cheesy but wonderful patriotic music show on the steps of the Capitol. There's people filling the mall. America in its glorious diversity, all kinds of people, and it's not a political day. It's a day for patriotism, and then you have the fireworks, and usually it's like cloudy, and often you just see sort of diffuse flashes of colored light above ahead, and it's a terrible traffic jam. It's glorious. It's wonderful. It's one of the best days of the year in Washington, despite the fact that it's usually 95 degrees. And to take this and to make it into what seems to be kind of a combination Trump rally and Kim Jong-un style military parade of hardware and equipment with Sherman tanks, which is ridiculous. The last Sherman tank, I think, was taken out of service in 1957.
Yep.
But it's just obscene. It really is, and I just hope it doesn't spoil the whole day. I mean, of course, they're going to try to have the biggest fireworks ever. Well, that's okay, but presidents don't speak at the 4th of July, and it's the People's Day. It's not the President's Day, and he's trying to turn it into something else, and I just think it's awful.
Heidi, the White House is trying to assure Americans that the president's speech at the Lincoln Memorial will not be a political one. I think we've learned over time he's incapable of that, save, I will say, for his speech, the D-Day remembrance last month, or a few weeks ago.
That's right. And we all know this is his favorite part of the job, Willie. I think this is the part where we remind everybody that right before he came to the White House, he was a show host. And this is his favorite part of the job, is choreographing these types of shows. He wanted, ever since he saw the Bastille Day celebration in France, his own self-tribute. And that is what this is going to turn into. But at what cost? And if you read down in that story, you'll see that this is really problematic to the D.C. City Council for several reasons. They're studying what the impact would be of the weight of said tanks on, for instance, the foundations of the Lincoln Memorial. The pyrotechnic display, unlike any we've seen on the mall before, is going to come at a great cost. He wants a military flyover. Again, some of these jets cost $30,000 an hour to operate. And then there's the question of freezing air traffic. We've never had that before, where now we're talking about the entire air traffic operation at Reagan National having to shut down for 2 hours. And so the question is really, at what cost is this going to come? Of course, the MAGA crowd will be there and will be reveling in it, but for everybody else and for people, you know, who Gene mentioned, who've done this years and years with kids, this is just going to be a very different experience.
We'll see in a couple of days. Heidi, thank you very much.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.